أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما آمين يا رب العالمين. Today we are starting a new and a very important topic in Arabic grammar, that is Jumla Shartiya, the conditional sentence. You already use conditional sentences in English every day, like if it's going to rain, I'll stay home. So the condition is that if it is going to rain, the result will be I'm going to stay home. So Arabic works in a very similar way, but with clear grammatical rules, and that is what we are going to learn. So just let's understand it step by step. See here. So this word shirt literally means condition. A jumla shartiya, a conditional sentence, is has, you can say, two statements. One is the condition and the other one is the result. We call the first part, that is the condition, we call it shart in Arabic language. And the second part, that is the result or the answer of the condition, is called the jawab shart. So we have the two parts in the Arabic sentences, that is a conditional sentence. We have the shart and then we have a jawab shart. So this shart means condition and the jawab shart is the answer or the result of the condition. And this second part cannot happen unless the first part happens. So for the second part, uh, it like it if it is going to happen only when the first part happens. So we have the first part shirt and the jawab shirt as a second part. So let's see the example here in Arabic. This is from Surah Baqarah, ayat number 23. وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِّثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. And if you are in doubt about what we have sent down upon our servant Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so this is the first part. This is the condition. This is a shart. And if you are going to see in the translation, if, and mostly we have many tools that inshallah we are going to learn that tells us that just tell us that this is a jumla shartiya in Arabic. So here you see in, that means if. And if you're in doubt about what we have sent down upon our servant Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then fatu, then produce فسورة بسورة من مثله وادعوا شهداءكم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. Then produce a surah, the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah, if you should be truthful. So here you see a conditional sentence, and as we have discussed that a conditional sentence in Arabic or in English have two parts. One is the condition and the other one is the result. One is the shart and the other one is the jawab shart. So the highlighted words you can see, this is our shart, or you can take this as whole the shirt, the first part, and this one is a jawabu shirt. So this is the starting of the shirt, and this is the starting of the jawabu shirt. Wa in kuntum fi raibin. So, and if you are in doubt, fatu, then. So the jawabu shirt is going to start with then. Then produce a surah, the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah if you should be truthful. So this is like this is just an overview of what we are going to learn for conditional sentences. As we go through examples and exercises in the future, the concept will become much clearer and easier to understand. And we'll see how the condition and the result work together in different contexts. And practicing, we will be able to understand the conditional sentences in the Quran, inshallah. So this is the example from Surah Baqarah in which we see the conditional sentence which has two parts, the shirt and the jawab shirt. Also, as I mentioned that this is the overview of the condition sentences. So the few things that we are going to learn might be overwhelming, but inshallah, with practice, we are going to remember all these conditions. So the rules that we are going to um, just keep in mind for the condition sentence is like the shirt. We know that there are two parts, shirt and jawabu shirt. So sometimes we see that the shirt can be fairly mudare, majzoom, or fairly madi. So we see the shirt in the form of fairly mudare majzoom or fairly madi. Sometimes, very rarely, we see it as jumla ismiya. And with that, if we have the fi'l mudari majzoom, the jawab shart can be fi'l mudari majzoom. And if it is fi'l madi, then the jawab shart will be fi'l madi. So these are the rules. We have the fi'l mudari majzoom, the shart will be fi'l mudari majzoom. If we have the shart fi'l madi, we have the jawab shart or the result will be in the form of fi'l madi. Also, we have Faili Mudari Majzoom. If the shirt is Faili Mudari Majzoom, we have the Jawabu shirt in the form of Faili Madi. Also, Faili Madi, if it is Faili Madi, we are going to have the shirt, Jawab shirt as Faili Mudari Majzoom. So these are all the alternate, these are all the, you can say, um, the combinations that you are going to see if we have a conditional sentence in Arabic language. So we have the shirt and the Jawab shirt for the conditional sentences. So this is rule number one that we are going to see for فعل مضارع مجزوم and فعل مضارع and فعل ماضي. So we have all these conditions that we might see in our condition sentences. Also, rule number two, we know that a shart can be فعل مضارع مجزوم or فعل ماضي, or it can be a jumla ismiya very rarely. But if we do not see, if we have the shart فعل مضارع مجزوم or فعل ماضي, but when the جواب الشرط is not فعل مضارع مجزوم or فعل ماضي, then the جواب الشرط must begin with fa, the letter fa, and there are 7 cases for this. And as mentioned that you don't need to remember this, whenever we are going to see an example for the shirt, we will see that if it is not in the jawab shart, if it is not in the form of fi'l mudari majzoom, or if it is not fi'l madi, we'll see a fa just like that we saw here. Fatu, we know that this is fi'l amr. It is not fi'l mudari majzoom and it is not fi'l madi. So then produce. So we can clearly see that it is fi'l amr and it is starting with fa. It is attached with the fa. So we don't need to remember all these conditions or cases, but as you can see, if it is not fi'l mudari majzoom or if it is not fi'l madi, the jawab shart is going to start with fa. So we need to remember these things are like we can see these things. It can be mudari marfu, it can be jumla ismiya, it can be fi'l madi with qad, it can be fi'l jamid, or it can be fi'l mudari plus the huruf istiqbal. We know that it is these are seen and sofa for the future, representing future. Also, it can starts with harfi nahi ma and lan. Also, as we have seen in the example from Surah Baqarah, it can be fi'l amr, lamul amr, fal wal. This is lamul amr with fa and wow. Also, fi'l nahi and istifhamiyah. So these are the two rules that we saw that we are going to see in the conditional sentences for shart and the jawab shart. Shart can be in the form of fi'l mudari majzoom. It can be fi'l madi. Rarely we see it as jumla ismiya. And for jawab shart, it can be fi'l mudari majzoom. It can be fi'l madi. It can be the combination of these two. It can be the combination of these two and this and this. So also we saw that if the jawab shart is not fi'l mudari majzoom or fi'l madi, we are going to see the jawab shart starting or beginning with fa. And we see with that far all these seven cases, as we saw in the example of Surah Baqarah. Then we have the Adwat Ashart. So we have the Adwata Shart Jazma, that means those Adwata Shart, those tools that make the Fele Mudari Majzoom, that is why they are called Jazma. And also we see the Adwata Shart that do not make any effect. So we have like different tools that can be used to create a Jumla Shartiya, and they are all Adwata Shart, and each one has a unique meaning. They have a different grammatical function, and we just saw that they are of two types. Advatasha Jasma, these are those tools that make both parts of the conditional sentence majzoom. But in that condition, we see that they both contain a faili mudare, because we know that faili madi cannot be changed into a majzoom form. For the conditional sentence, that tool that makes that makes a shart and the jawab shart majzoom, it should be faili mudare that can be changed into its majzoom form. Then we have the adwatu ghair jazma, those adwatu shart that are ghair jazma, that have no grammatical function or effect on the word following it. So we are going to be learning about these adwat and their meanings and their grammatical functions, inshallah, soon in our next session. So we have adwat shart jazma and we have adwat shart ghair jazma. So adwat shart jazma, we just for the reference, we have these adawat shart jazma in man, ma, and ainama. In means if, man means whoever, ma is whatever, and ainama is wherever. These were the adawat shart jazma that makes the jawab shart and the shart majzoom. Also, there are a few rules that we are going to see for the shart jazma, that they make both the shart and the jawab shart, like the condition and its results in the majzoom form. These both parts should be faile mudare. They always translate in the present tense even when the madi is used. These are the rules that we are going to keep in mind. So the first one is for the Adwata Shirt Jazma, we have the Jawab shirt and the shirt both in the form of Faili Mudari, and they are always going to be translated in the present tense form, even if we see a Faili Madi used. Also, we are often going to find a fa on the Jawab, and this happens when the shirt and the Jawab are different, like shart is present tense and the jawab is past tense, or a shart is failure, or the jawab is ismiya, or as we saw that the shart was the failure mudari, but the that jawab shart was in the form of failure. We saw a fa on that, like we did the example of Surah Al-Baqarah. So these are the rules. Inshallah, we are going to remember them, or we are going to be familiar with them as we practice for Jumla Shartiya. So this is all about Jumla Shartiya. Inshallah, we are going to continue with this in the next session. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.